Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm gonna start this video off by saying I'm not the biggest fan of Five Nights at Freddy's. I've played a couple of the games for maybe a combined hour in total, and never really thought much of it again. As far as the lore goes, I know some, like a tiny bit. Now the reason I come out saying that, kind of a warning, I'm going into this as a guy who just likes horror films. Now that that's out of the way and the obsessed Five Nights at Freddy fans won't murder me, we're good to go. For months now, I've been seeing this film everywhere. Anytime I scroll on Twitter or, well, really just Twitter, I don't use social media, I'll see people talking about it or see advertisements for it. Due to this, I figured I'd give the movie a chance, so I'm going to be reviewing / recapping all of Five Nights at Freddy's, so spoiler warnings, of course. I also want to say that I don't have anything against the people who are super fans of Five Nights at Freddy's, other than the ones that draw weird, sexy pictures of the animatronic robot things. That's weird, but I'm sure that's only a small percent of the fans. The movie just came out like maybe a week or 2 ago, 2 weeks ago. I'm a little late, of course, but that means the reviews are out, and the movie's sitting at a solid 5.5 out of 10 on IMDb, with a critic score on Rotten Tomatoes of 30%. However, it does have an 88% positive rating on Rotten Tomatoes for audiences. There's hope it might be a good film. I mean, it made $200 million. There's a lot of fanfare for this series, so maybe it'll surprise me. Anyhow, let's go ahead and get deep into the Five Nights at Freddy's universe. Five Nights at Freddy's starts off with this glitchy screen on the introduction, which is kind of weird. It's really reminiscent to the Paranormal Activity series or The Ring, which I've been watching for videos before this. It then quickly transitions into a security office, very reminiscent of the one off the game, the first game. There, we see the security guard freaking out and trying to get through an air duct. While pissing his pants going through the air duct, this happens. Right after that guy dies, I'm sure, we get a very long intro, and we get to meet our main character, our protagonist of the series, Mike. We quickly learn that he isn't the most trustworthy protagonist, or at least they try to hint at that by him just knocking some pills that he had into his drawer. I guess showing that people are on medication makes them seem crazy or something, which is super bad, so. And it turns out Mike works as a security guard at a mall. Anyway, Mike sees something that looks like a child being kidnapped by a man in the mall and overreacts and just beats the hell out of this would-be kidnapper.
We got this new flip.
Turns out he just beat the shit out of some guy who was there with his kid. This leads him to losing his job. I mean, maybe you should confront the guy at the very least. Now that Mike is an unemployed loser, he has to go to a career counselor to try to find a job.
What is your deal, Mike? What are you, some kind of head case?
That was a mistake. It was a misunderstanding. I thought...
Just look at your employment record. Tire Zone sales associate, 2 months terminated. Media World custodial staff, 1 week. It's like you're not even trying here.
Seeing Matthew Lillard here as a career counselor really threw me off a bit. It gave me suspicions that he'd be a pretty important character. Maybe they shouldn't have gotten a bigger actor like him to do this, but I guess he fills the role. In spite of that, Mike is told that due to him assaulting a random man in front of his child at a mall while he was at work, his career options are pretty limited now. Fair play, I wouldn't hire a guy like Mike. I mean, maybe he could be like an enforcer for the mob, or what else could you do? A police officer? So Matthew Lillard tells him, hey, I do have one job lined up for you though, but it's not great. Turns out the only job he can get him has really high turnover, bad pay, and it's at night, which doesn't excite Mike, to say the least.
You want the job or not?
I can't do nights.
That's such a shame.
Yeah.
Mike here is way too proud to do a job like that, even though he kind of put himself in that situation. Because of this, he leaves and heads home, but when he gets home, we see an eviction notice on his door. Not a great sign. And as it turns out, Mike is raising his little sister by himself too. I guess his parents aren't in the picture anymore. We get some dialogue between him and his sister until Mike heads to sleep. During this, we get some dream scenes. A really overdone thing in horror. I guess it's meant to fill a broader story in this movie. It shouldn't have happened. Inside this dream, he relives the memory of his brother being kidnapped when they were younger. Mike wasn't able to do anything about it, so I guess he's all messed up about it.
Garrett?
Garrett! Garrett! The next day, we get a really cheesy interaction between Mike and his aunt. She's trying to take custody of his little sister Abby away from him, but the dialogue here feels really weird. There's so many times in this movie where the acting just doesn't feel good. It pulls you out of the movie.
It's not even 10 o'clock and he can barely keep his eyes open. And this degenerate is who they entrust with the well-being of a mentally ill child. You know that this is the right thing to do. I hope that you will sign.
And if I don't?
Well, then my lawyer and I will have to take you to court.
After this, Mike then talks to this therapist, which maybe she works at school or something. Maybe she's a teacher. I really don't know. But she's like, hey, Mike, it might be a good idea if you want to like succeed in family court to have a job. Now, having a woman tell you should get a job to keep your sister, he wants to keep his sister. He goes ahead and calls Matthew Lillard back and is like, hey, buddy, I really need that job there. Sometimes you have to risk robotic, possessed, evil animatronics to succeed in family courts, you know? That's a valuable lesson for the men out there. After that, we get what should have been the introduction to this film, where we see Mike heading off to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza to work his new job as head of security. And during this scene, we hear Matthew Lillard talking to him over the phone, explaining what the job is going to be and what he needs to do. Not too long after arriving, he makes it to the security station and finds a VHS tape with his name printed on it. He puts it in, and we probably get, it's like internet horror and dumb. I'll just show you what.
Let's introduce you to the stars of the show. Adorable, aren't they?
After this real spooky happening, Mike goes around and he's going to go get acclimated with his new job. While walking around, he runs into the animatronics and jumps. He's pretty jumpy throughout the film. A bit later in the night, we see Mike just dozing off and going back into his dreams, which is, I'm telling you, man, it's the most annoying part of this movie. But inside of his dreams, he sees these random children there now, and they just kind of run away from him and won't even acknowledge him. It's kind of strange.
Did you see that car? You see what happened? Did you see who took my brother?
I know enough about Five Nights at Freddy's lore to know I know what they're getting at. I'll go ahead and spoil it now, I suppose. The animatronics are possessed by dead kids. They're ghosts. And they kill people because there's an evil guy. I wish I could show you one of the full dream scenes just to show you how long they are. Like, it's probably 2 or 3 minutes of Mike just walking around. Hello? Hello? It was actually sometime around here where I ended up finding a strange guest appearance in the movie. We randomly see Matt Pat from Game Theory.
You do realize that lunch is the most important meal of the day.
Thought it was breakfast.
Some people say that, but you know, it's just a theory.
It threw me off until I remembered that he got really, really popular after making Five Nights at Freddy's videos on YouTube. All in all, though, Mike's first night as a security guard at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was pretty uneventful. We then head to the next day where we get our first real big event of the film. As it turns out, the babysitter that watches Mike's sister while he's at work is working for his aunt to dig up dirt on him to try to help her in court against the guy. That's a thing. I'm sure that's going to come back. She's going to send the babysitter and her boyfriend and his friends in to where Mike just got his new job to tear stuff up, to ransack the place. It doesn't really make sense in the end, though, because they go during the day and there's a camera system set up. So you're going to break in while he's not at work to get him fired over something he has no control over. They do... we'll get to that later. The next big chunk of the film is Mike just dreaming. An interesting thing does happen where Mike gets cut in his dream and it translates over to the real world. Right after waking up with a new cut on his arm, this random policewoman, this really attractive random policewoman shows up, like buzzing the beeper. Hey, anyone home?
You're bleeding, by the way. It's nasty.
What's really weird about this is that she knows way too much about the place. Maybe it's a bit of a sign. I'm usually not one for authority, but I think I'd hang up one of those thin blue line flags if I was with her, if you know what I mean, man. Back to the movie. The cute cop chick lady thing. She goes over the entire history with Mike of what this Fazbear's Pizza is all about, explaining that in the 1980s it was popular, but it shut down because all these children went missing, revolving around the place. Maybe they were at the place. Don't kill me, Five Nights at Freddy's stands. To explain why she knows this much about the place also, when Mike asks her, she's just like,
You seem to really know your way around the place.
Well, Freddy's is on my beat. I like to stay well informed.
oh, this is on my beat, man. I peruse and patrol these parts of town all the time, so I know this place pretty well. Because she's cute, I guess, Mike's just like, yeah, totally. Okay. Right after Mike leaves, we see the dorks from earlier working with the aunt, just scoping the place out. Right after Mike drives away, they quickly put the plan into gear, put the action into the plan. It doesn't really work out though because of those pesky kids. Those meddling kids. Needless to say, they all get killed one by one. It's one of the only fun moments in the movie where there's actually any sort of action. What's sad about it being the one and only fun moment though is the bad guys that ransack this place are honestly like Goonies level bad guys. Actually, the bad people in the Goonies are on a higher level than these people. Not good.
Hank! Come on. Come on.
So you see one guy get attacked by a cupcake animatronic and then a blue bunny. Sure, they're big, which kind of makes them scary. They might be scary wouldn't be the word, maybe imposing. But it gives me really weird children's movie vibes. I know it's PG-13, but the Five Nights at Freddy's games were kind of scary, especially when they came out.
What the heck?
This almost felt like it came out of nowhere, though. My biggest gripe with this whole scene of these people coming in and it being one of the only entertaining parts is you know that they're going to get torn up by the fucking robots. Like, you know from the moment they're there, scouting them out, they're gonna all die. So there's no intensity built up there. When Mike's there, he's just dreaming half the time. It's not for me, man. It's not for me. After the whole group gets killed, we go back to Mike. The cop lady shows up to his house, explaining it got broken into, and it was because he left the door unlocked. I feel like they were probably going to break in any other way.
Somebody broke into Freddy's.
What? What happened?
Newsflash, if you're too whacked out to remember to lock a friggin' door, accident or not, you're liable. It's called criminal negligence.
After she intimidates Mike, saying, hey man, you could get in trouble, he decides to trauma dump on her about his brother being kidnapped. The police lady hears all this and is like, oh, dead brother. Oh, trying to dream to figure it out. Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah, have a good night. Big problem, though, when he's about to go to work, the babysitter isn't showing up because she got bit in half by a robotic bear. Mike having almost no options, he has to take his little sister to work with him. After getting there, Mike sets some ground rules for her and quickly has her go to sleep. Even though Mike promised the police lady that he wouldn't be dreaming at work, what does he do? He passes out. During this, the little sister gets awoken by little kid voices, spooky little kid voices. Later on, Mike wakes up and finds his little sister surrounded by animatronics that can talk.
They wouldn't stop tickling me. I said I was gonna die. Freddy, this is my brother, Mike.
Now, if you wake up and you're at work at a creepy rundown restaurant where children go missing and your little sister is being surrounded by robots that shouldn't be able to move on their own, and she tells you, hey, they keep telling me I'm gonna die while tickling me, you leave, you walk out the front door, say, hey, sorry, man, I'm gonna try to get a job somewhere else. This girl would probably be safer if she was with my aunt, to be honest. What does old Mikey do? He tries to rationalize it all. Of course, after this, we head even further down the children's movie rabbit hole when the cop lady shows up and Mike, the robots, and the cop build a fort for the little girl to play in. I don't know, man. I thought this was a horror movie, not a children's movie. It's PG-13. Every horror movie's PG-13.
It needs to be big, so we can all fit inside.
As I was saying, though, I did not expect this to feel so much like a children's movie, just how fucking silly and random it was.
Are you okay?
Maybe I'm disregarding the whole lore. I know that the scary bad guys in this movie, scary, I'm using that very loosely at this point, they're children's spirits, but you're telling me you see a walking, talking animatronic robot and you build a pillow fort with it? All I'm saying is I'd rather see some people get torn up and ripped apart while alive by these things, and like blood running down their faces from eating people or something. That'd be more fun. That night passes, and then the hot cop chick, she's like, "Hey Mike, don't bring your sister here. It's not a good idea." After she just hung out with the robots and built a fort with them, she's like, "You bring your sister back here, I'm gonna shoot you, Mike," or something like that.
You can do whatever you want with your own life, but if you ever bring Abby back here again, I will shoot you.
So now Mike has been threatened by a hot cop chick that she's gonna kill him if he brings his sister there again, and he doesn't have a babysitter because she got bit in half by Freddy Fazbear, who they were just playing with, having a fun, sleepy, fun time, sleepover. Mike calls his aunt and has her watch the kid. The kid's none too happy about this. Mike's character does not make sense, but I know that miserable, annoying, selfish characters are very in nowadays in Hollywood, so I'm gonna chalk that up to just being writing. He couldn't trust this woman at all, but now he's letting her watch his sister, which is... I don't think that would look very good in family court. But, so yeah, our village idiot Mike, he heads back to the job, and after seeing walking, talking robots, what does he do the next day? He falls asleep at work again.
We want Abby.
This was dumb. The kids go on and explain like, "Oh, we want Abby. We're not gonna stop till we get Abby. We want her here with us. She's gonna be one of us." Mike wakes up from his dream, and like the security guard in the beginning, there's a robot mask that's just spitting saws coming at his face. Just in the nick of time, he gets out. Right after getting out of the chair, he finds the bodies of the would-be criminal masterminds before him. Of course, this freaks him the hell out, and he gets out. The film then cuts back to Abby at the house, where we see a robot just come in and kill the aunt, however you want to say it. So Freddy Fazbear was able to just walk across town as a big animatronic bear, no questions asked. I feel like even in the smallest towns, in the middle of the night, people are driving down the road. If you're driving down the road and you see a giant animatronic bear walking around, you're probably going to ask questions. I don't know how they explain this one.
Freddy?
Not only does he do that, he's able to abduct Abby. He kills the aunt, abducts Abby, and then gets a Uber.
Where to, little lady? What the? Oh my goodness! Not cool. Why do I always get the weirdos?
I get it was meant to be funny, but it's more stupid than it is funny. So Abby's been kidnapped. We go back to Mike, and he's talking to the cop lady again. He confronts her because she knows way more than she's been letting on, of course. Her being a pretty girl can't keep Mike in the dark forever, so he confronts her. She goes ahead and tells him everything, that she's the daughter of the guy who owned this place and kidnapped kids, and explains that they're all possessed ghosts, and they're gonna try to take Abby and do that to her, and fucking kill them all. Not only does she explain everything here, though, we get a really great woman moment.
I tried to warn you. I really did try, in my own way. But it's too late now. He knows that you're looking for him.
I really love signals that women give, especially when it comes to psychotic robot children demons trying to murder your sister and you. Yeah, I tried to give you a sign. Did you not see the way I looked at you? She ends up giving Mike some cattle prod things and some tasers, and tells him that they're weak to electricity and to go save his sister. Mike runs through and does quick work of the robots, but just when he thinks he's gotten out safe with his sister, he gets attacked by that giant cupcake robot. Just bites him in the ass. I've used the word dumb too much. What other word should I use to describe how I felt? I'm gonna have to bleep that. Abby gets left alone, some fox thing hunts her down, the cop comes in and saves her while she's hiding in a ball pit. Then we get a big showdown between the final boss, the big yellow rabbit that abducted the kids. Yeah, the counselor from earlier that got him the job. He's the bad guy. He abducted and killed Mike's little brother. Now Mike works there. It was all a big, crazy plan. It's not really much of a showdown, though, because they do something, and the kids are able to, like, attack Matthew Lillard and save the day. Abby and Mike are able to just get out. They're okay. It was really fun to watch it. Had a really good time. Of course, it's not entirely over. A couple weeks later, it shows on the screen, like every other movie. Mike and his little sister go and visit the cute cop lady, and she's in the hospital on, like, life support or something. Then we see them.
Can we visit them sometime?
You know what? You never know what can happen.
So Five Nights at Freddy's. It's not good. I think it comes down to this. The characters in this movie sucked. Elizabeth Lyle, or whatever her name is, very pretty, but they have her in a cop uniform the entire movie, which isn't the most attractive thing you could be wearing. The little sister, I guess, doesn't do a bad job. Mike, it's weird. I can't remember the character's name. It's like Robert something. Hutcherson or some shit. I don't picture him as being an adult because he was a child actor, so it's weird seeing him. He's not a great actor either. I mean, they could all do better than me. I hated how it all used dreams. The most interesting part of the film is probably just Matthew Lillard. He's a funny guy, I like him, but he gets such little screen time. The dreams almost felt like they were just there to pad the runtime. It was 30 minutes of extra scenes that were boring. When I heard that there was a Five Nights at Freddy's movie, I thought that there was going to be like it was going to be like an intense horror thriller, but no, it's nothing like the games. Mostly just lore and I guess. Half of it felt like a literal child's film. A quarter of it felt like a bad mystery with Mike's missing brother. And then the other quarter of it felt like a very uninspired horror film. I don't think that this movie was made for regular audience members. It's mostly just people who are Five Nights at Freddy's fans. I'm sure that people that really like the series Five Nights at Freddy's will probably like this. But if you're like me and you're just like, yeah, I might spend 30 minutes playing the game, it's kind of spooky, you probably won't like this. This is really for the people that watch like 9-hour-long Five Nights at Freddy's lore videos. It was cool to see Matthew Lillard though, so yeah. I don't know if you could call this a horror movie. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10 though. Not my cup of tea. Too long and boring. I think this movie was 1 hour and 50 minutes. Anyway, I'm tired of talking about Five Nights at Freddy's, and I probably shouldn't have done this video. On a depressing note, this was one of the better video game movie adaptations I've ever seen. There's that. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, I didn't. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Later.